It's the battle of the Krampuses. Krampi? Which one is best, the one from last year or the newly released red version? We'll try to answer that on this episode of Geek Dad Life. So I missed out on the first Figura Obscura figure last year, but luckily at a toy show I was able to get the first version as well as this new red version, which is dropping today, December 5th, for a lot of people. And I figured it would be a fun video to stack these two side by side to see, for those that maybe missed out on the original one, is the new one better, or will it satisfy your needs, or do you really prefer the older one, so that's the one you want to go out for, or do you need both? So hopefully this video answers a lot of those questions for you. The packaging for both of these Krampuses, Krampi, is very similar. The red one has a darker background and a red painted face. The original one has a more bluish tone to it with the black painted face. And overall the box is very similar, but there are some differences. As you can see, they're showing off different websites on the side on what would be the spine of the book if this was a book. We also have a little bio for Krampus on the back as well. And then on the inside, since this was the first Figura Obscura release, maybe they didn't have the branding as front and center, but you do have a Figura Obscura logo right here. I love how the outer sleeves attach with magnets, and when you pull them off, you get a nice backdrop for your figures. It's a pretty standard window packaging. You have some nice artwork on the back. All right, let's get these things out of the packaging. All right, looking at the figures side by side, I mean, the sculpting is absolutely incredible. The paint applications are absolutely incredible. All of the detail is absolutely unreal. I do think that it's important to note, both colorways are looks that have been featured in historical illustrations of Krampus, but illustrations of him with dark brown or black fur are far more common. While the sculpting and paint is incredible, the articulation is just okay. And honestly, I am perfectly fine with that, because for me, it's more about getting it in a decent pose and then having it on a shelf looking awesome, and the Four Horsemen do that so well. But what they usually sacrifice is some of the articulation. There's no ab crunch here, there's no double jointed elbows, even though it's pinless in those elbows. Only having the one point of articulation definitely limits its mobility. But I do think the articulation shines in the head articulation. The way they cut the kind of mane of the figure allows a ton of range of motion, even with all of that sculpted hair. Attaching the tail to the figures was a pain in the butt, both figuratively and literally in the case of the figures, as the smaller ball socket on the figure's rear end did not make it easy to attach the tail, especially with the original release. The accessories are great for both figures. I mean, they're nearly identical, aside from paint differences between the two sets. All of his accessories are straight out of his mythology, with his bundle of birch reeds, sleigh bells, chained handcuffs, and his basket. Now, as part of his lore, he would stuff the naughty children into that basket, potentially to their doom. So the baskets do feature a couple of skulls as well as hands, but I'm thankful they are adult-sized skulls and hands, because having kid skeletons in there would be way too dark. The barrel does attach to both Krampi with a real piece of twine, which does look really good, but it is kind of a pain in the neck to get it going. It's not the hardest thing in the world, but you do sacrifice a little bit on the ease of use in exchange for a better look. And lastly, he does come with an extra set of hands that have a tighter grip. Once you get them all accessoried up, they look absolutely fantastic for both figures. When comparing them side by side, it's really hard to pick which one I like better. The original release definitely matches his more common appearance that we've seen in illustrations before, but the red one really pops, allowing a lot of the sculpting detail to be more easily seen. I also really love the splash of green on his loincloth, making him extra Christmassy. I feel like I won't know for sure until I have my Father Christmas in hand. I really would like to have these two side by side, and when thinking about it through that lens, I do think that I would prefer and probably stick with the original release of the Krampus, just because I feel like the darker tones will contrast better with the red suit of the Father Christmas than the red one will. I asked people on my community page, and they seem to be split as well. Where do you side on this? Would you prefer the original release or the new red version? Or maybe just get both? Let me know down in the comments section below. If you want to keep watching, check out this video. And until next time, hasta luego and goodbye.